there we go. Wow.
How are you?
We're in different universes here.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, it's
What?
marvelous to see you. So how are you doing?
No, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. And how are you doing?
Doing very well. My husband sends his best wishes to you.
Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly. Please send my warmest regards to him as well.
I will do so. I will do so.
Yeah, we miss you guys here in Devon.
I know, I know. And why did you become an urban planner?
A very interesting question. You know what they say? We are who we are because of early childhood experiences. My late father, I was born in a family of people who are public servants. My late mother was a nurse, and my late father was a social worker. And I have memories of my father attending to people. I grew up largely in the 80s, right? So in the township of Umlazi, down south of Durban. My father would receive various people from the community. Obviously, people who also maybe some of them really I'll call them poor, um, needing advice and support to navigate whatever problem that they have. And it struck me that over and above my dad's day job as a social worker, working for a non-governmental organization that was taking care of the interests of ex-offenders, but he was also being of service to the community, and he was also involved in various community organizations and in the church. And for me, I grew up asking myself, what will I become when I grow up? And I had a passion for geography, and I did think that whatever I do, it needed to touch on matters around the environment, around the future as well. So, growing up in a township of Umlazi, which was acutely underserviced, I used to ask myself, what is it that I can do to be of value, to be of service to this community? Because here I am surrounded by a family, not just my father, but I also had aunts and some of their friends who were deeply involved in community service, trying to make lives of others better. So when I went to university and I discovered that there is a course called Town and Regional Planning, and it resonated with aspects of work that I was very interested in terms of how do we bring people into the dynamic of the world of work. And so they were talking about needing to produce town planners who are not just only worried about drawing plans and putting lines on the map, but people who are going to understand how the relationship between the interests and aspirations of people resonate with the state of environment, the state of the economy, the state of the infrastructure, and how you blend that together. Yeah, so I think out of those experiences, I chose planning, and it has turned out to be one of the best decisions I've made in my life.
Linda, that is brilliant, and it's also very heartwarming. It's something that came from your family. It's something that encouraged you from your parents, aunts, and I think that it's very personal to you, that decision. So therefore, you are, in a sense, a dreamer. Is it important to carry a dream in your heart, even if it cannot be realized immediately?
Oh, yes. Dreams are important. Not just one dream. When I talk to my own children, talking to young people, I'm passionate about cultivating and coaching and mentoring young people as well. So I always encourage them to have dreams, because dreams sustain us every day in our lives. So, when you wake up every day, I often say this, you wake up with two choices. One choice is to continue to sleep. The other choice is to wake up and chase your dream. So if you have dream or dreams, you have that motivation, the intrinsic motivation to wake up and do something good for yourself and for others.
That's beautiful, Linda. Very touching. So the next question is, who are the dreamers in our country, and why should we honor them?
Wow, what a question. I think we're a country of 60 million people, right? So I've come across hundreds, if not thousands of people through my work, through my curiosity over the years. And obviously, I can't pinpoint them by name one by one, but I can roughly say I've come across dreamers in the private sector, for example. People who are in business not for the purpose of making millions for themselves necessarily and live lavish lifestyles. I've come across people in business who are in business with a clear understanding that being in business is a gift to society.
Wow.
People who have an ethical understanding of running business, who have an ethical vision of the community. So you find those in various organizations like chambers of commerce, chambers of business, organizations such as the Rotary. There are many in different environments, from suburban environments into big cities and even in townships. And so those people who are running those service organizations, they're doing business, yes, but at the same time, they are using business to nurture others, to become a mouthpiece for creating better communities. The second group of people that I can mention as dreamers are people in what we call the civil society sector. So we have individuals who are notable. Think about people who are running in organizations like the Gift of the Givers. Those are significant civil society organizations. Think about people who are running a big organization around responding to HIV/AIDS, for example. But we also have many other unsung heroes in communities, social entrepreneurs, people who see a problem of young kids who don't have access to education, and they start, for example, early childhood centers. People who see problems of women who are living under stress, and they start initiatives around protecting the dignity of women. So those people who are leading in the civil society space, whether it's big organizations or small organizations, are my heroes, people that I feel are dreamers, dreaming of a better life, better communities. I also come across dreamers in the public sector because I'm employed in the public sector where, for reasons of impact, I thought being a town planner in the public service gives an opportunity to be able to embed yourself into processes of planning, resource mobilization and allocation and implementation, and have an opportunity to evaluate and look back at what we have done, and together with many others. I'm a person who also believes in scale, and I come across people who are scalers like me, who are dreaming of creating better cities, cities that help the greater number of people to have incomes that enable them to sustain their lives. People who are using functions of government policy and planning instruments to get us to build sustainable infrastructure. People who help us to work together to build quality living environments. So there's a whole range of dreamers that are in the public sector, from national government level to provincial and local government level. Some of them come as technocrats, some of them come as policymakers. So that's one group. And also maybe the final group I can mention quickly, it's academics, knowledge makers. We often get told that we now live in an era of knowledge economy. So I find some of the academics who are not just there in universities to teach or to research, but they also engage in community service or service learning. And they use their time to reach out to the underserved, to reach out to people who are invisible and touch their lives through the knowledge that they generate as researchers and people who are curious about how do we use knowledge to create a better world. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was beautiful. That was amazing. Stunning work you're doing out there. Your compassion is astounding in the South African context. How are you motivating, encouraging, and building our nation from your world in Durban, KZN? This shows that you are an individual who believes in the diversity and beauty of South Africa. So, Linda, how are you imparting this to the marginalized communities who rely on your word as a much respected and loved municipal official to make their dreams come true?
Thank you. Interesting question. First, it starts with the reality that I know this in my heart, and I try to impart it to others, that the purpose of life is to serve others, regardless of your circumstance, regardless of your condition. There is always an opportunity to be of service to others. So when ever I find myself, even in a community that is hugely under-resourced, I emphasize the power of agency. You know, I come across cases where I would meet women in the far-flung rural areas of Inanda, for example, and I would say to them, you know, you are a small plant growers here. You are rearing chickens, for example. You are doing all sorts of things to help yourselves. To me, you are leaders. So I always find it fascinating that when you tell people that even poor people, people who are feeling that they are in the margins of society, you say to them, you are leaders. First of all, they don't believe you because they say, what? Me, a leader? So one way of affirming individuals and inspiring them to roll their sleeves and make their lives better, not to wait for some messiah from somewhere to come in and save them. You need to remind them of their own agency. So I'm a big believer that in our society, in our communities, in our city, we need to engender the whole idea of leadership, getting everyone to take responsibility, because we come from a culture also. We understand, given the history of this country, the struggle that we've had to come through to get people who were divided to work together in unity, and also to believe that working in unity is better than working in a divisive platform. And you encourage everyone that our purpose really is to not to divide and rule others, but is to unite and lead. So giving practical meaning to that is really something that I always try to think about on a day-to-day basis, because what we do, we're not measured by what we say, but we're measured by our practices. So I would rather do more and say less, and be measured and be judged by people that are around me. Obviously, I also encourage people I work with that sometimes we try and fail. It's better to try and fail than not to try at all.
That's it. Thank you for that, Linda. That was encouraging, even to myself. That was very encouraging. And how is your work as a visionary for the people, reaching all the diverse ethnic groups in your region as an area-based manager for your municipality?
Oh, interesting question. In the Heritage Month, for that matter.
Yeah.
I think, we operate in an environment where people are different, they are diverse. Number one, our work and my work is certainly rooted in the idea that the diversity is not a problem, but it's a resource. communities where I work, I encourage the whole idea of getting everyone to create space for others to come and work with them, and not to create an unnecessary fear of the others and different, you know. Discourage this notion of othering others, but create friendships,
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
and be a bridge builder, not a bridge breaker. So it's very important. So yeah, I try to get people to understand the value of working with people from different cultures and be inquisitive about their religion, the food they eat, their histories, and also encourage them to document and write those histories as well. And so now it's Heritage Month. I'm getting a lot of requests and proposals from different people to say, hey, I want to create a festival of people from Wamashu and Phoenix to come together. Those are very, very interesting and dynamic projects that I love, and I would like to see more and more of that, because it's our heritage. It's what makes us to be who we are.
It's unified. I love that, Linda. That is well, maybe you'll be the one to bring about the unification of South Africa from inside of South Africa. And
no,
I think I see in you not just.
I'm humbled by that, Michelle. Clearly, but I say this. From the sincerity of my heart, I'm a big believer that we all have the responsibility to do our part to bring the unity that we need to move the country forward. But also, I also come from okay, if I may just tell you quickly a story. 2-3 weeks ago, my family and I, we put together a memorial for our late dad and late mom. So we were putting the tombstone and celebrating them. And my dad was an amazing guy. I mean, I've told you a bit about him. I mean, he had he was very much into languages as well. So he spoke a little bit of Hindi, and I used to be amazed when we come across
incredible.
People of Indian descent, and then he'll start to talk to them, and they'll be very shocked. Here's a Black African fellow, who can speak, construct, string a few sentences of their own language. And so I went to talk to a man called Ginger Pagwandas. The Pagwandas are very well known in Durban. They own a number of shops, retail shops. And so I reached out to him and said, Uncle Ginger, I'm doing a memorial for my dad. If ever you're available, you can pop in, I think he had other commitments, but he wrote me a very wonderful, heartwarming text, which I still have up until now, where he was, where he said this to me, and I just I was sharing this with my children the other day, where he said, "Your father was a wonderful soul. He was also a great human being. The Mbonambis are known to our family for nearly 75 years. My eldest brother, the late Dr. Nadva Pagwandas, was your dad's student. He taught him Latin in the 1950s. I also remember your grandfather. My father made tailor-made suits in the 1950s for them." So sometimes we are who we are because of people before us. So my passion and interest in creating platforms for people of different cultures to come together, build friendships, build communities together, comes from that lineage where my great-grandfathers did the same. My great-grandfather was a well-known proprietor in Durban in the turn of the 19th century, and he had built a strong, a solid business because of the friendship he had with people who were who had just been released as endangered Indians, right?
Yes.
And so that relationship has continued for over half a century. You know, that's just what we have to do as a people. And I say this to people from different backgrounds as well that I work with, that we shouldn't undermine the experiences of our own children as well. You know, get our children to understand our own values as bridge builders, as people who care about humanity as a whole. Because scientists will tell us that beyond the skin of mine and hair texture, as humanity, there's something more in common in us than that which is different.
Yes,
So that's the
absolutely.
reality.
Absolutely. So you're a man with a mission, and I would regard you as a visionary. How do you reimagine the future heritage of our country in 100 years from now, Linda?
Oh, very interesting, very interesting. I think in the future we're gonna have, if we can be able to be deliberate about how we live now, we're gonna have a future where we are not afraid to celebrate our achievements. We are not gonna be afraid to celebrate our cultural assets, our languages. And imagine that if we are brazen enough and if we are thoughtful enough, we are going to use the offerings of technology, for example, as we are talking right now, to use technology as an enabler to document our histories, have our children and children's children to value the lives we have led and the lives those who came before us have led, and use that as an inspiration to create a much more better world. I having said that, you'd pick up that I'm quite passionate about documenting our histories. In fact, my dad passed on 3 years ago. He died at 88. After retirement at 65, he started to document everything he remembered being told about the Mbonambis. So in our home, we have this treasure that we are still figuring out what to do with it. And interestingly, the other day I was in the ICC and I met a guy who said, "Oh, I'm related with the Mbonambis." I said, "In what way are you related with the Mbonambis?" I said, he said, "My great-grandfather was the first man to be the secretary of the first prophet Isaiah Shembe." I said, "That man is also a father of my grandfather, so we are related, so and so for me it's always been something fascinating. I go to the Shembe church and tell them that the first secretary of the man who founded this big institution called the Shembe church is actually a father of my grandfather, so the point I'm making here is that we need to celebrate oneness. We had one of a very important figure in our history. His name is Dr. Pixley Isakaseme, who used to say over 100 years ago that we are one people. And that message can't be more important even in the next 100 years from now. We need to see ourselves as one people.
We take it. We take it, Linda. You have prophesied. So we take it. So the thing is, it would be remiss of me not to mention your beautiful family, and Pagamila is your queen. So Gavin and I were blessed to attend your marriage all those years ago. And what I need to know is, how does your family support your calling and your purpose in life?
Yes. I think the biggest contribution they've made is to give me space to be who I am. And I also try to do the same. She has her own passions. I provide space for her to pursue her own dreams and support where I can. So I think that's a wonderful way of recognizing and affirming each other's individuality, whilst through love and marriage, we are still committed to build the family that we have today.
That's marvelous. That's marvelous. And the children, how do they support your purpose?
Hey, very interesting. We have a pigeon pair. Our son is studying computer science, and currently he's helping me to develop some of the applications of the work that I'm interested in around documenting the histories of amazing people that I've come across. So he's helping me to set up those platforms. And my daughter, who's in matric currently, I think her biggest role is just to ask questions.
That's
she's
good.
a very intelligent person, and so through her questions, I'm able to think better in terms of what are issues that I have to think about in terms of doing what I do. And of course, Michelle, I cannot overemphasize the power of community.
Absolutely.
The role of the extended family and friends. One relies a lot on them in terms of testing some of the things that I think about, and also just bring other people into the space, and because fundamentally a town planner, I always see myself also as an artist, because that's how we're trained, that we must accept the reality of the social. So as an artist, I have to be very much elegant in terms of how I create spaces for other people to help me to be able to grow as a person and help me to live a life that is as rich as the people that I try to enrich.
Marvelous, Linda. Absolutely. Beautiful ethos to live by. And it shows in your work, it shows in your friendship. Ours is a long friendship. I met you on our wedding day, so it goes a long way, and it's a beautiful one too. We have a wonderful story behind us, and I would say into the future as well. Wonderful. So our president, Linda, Nelson Mandela, our first president, he said that our rich and varied cultural heritage has a profound power to help build our nation. Now, I've asked all the guests, various guests from around the world and here, that question, and everybody answered it. You have to be the first person who answered that question before I asked it, with all the other questions that I asked you, because it completes. How does that statement resonate with your calling as the head of the area-based management unit of the Ethekwini Municipality? You've answered it. You've answered.
No, certainly, yes. I think Mandela is a father of our nation, and his life, the life of overcoming the hatred that apartheid needed him to drive to be a different person from how he became. I think I take a lot from him, and one of the biggest profound statements he made that I remember every day is that it's important in life to hope,
Yes.
And he defined hope as life itself. So if we can always remember that we must live in hope, and hope is life itself.
That's what I love.
Exactly. That's the wonderful way of, back in the day when your hubby, Kevin, and I were working as a junior planners, going in Guamashu, literally driving through what other people would call a lion's den. What drove us was really hope, hope that we can be able to understand this community that we're working in, and come up with better ideas of transforming this community to be a better community. And some of that is happening. And I hope next time Gavin and yourself come here, I can be able to take around to
Wow.
spots that
I
we
would
drove
love
in,
that.
and which tell a different story to the story that we saw. I mean, over 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago. I would love that. Linda, it was such a joy talking to you, and you really were a great guest on the show, and everything was just beautifully answered as well. And you shared a part of your life with us this morning. I think that's a great heritage, and you and I share that heritage with our whole country. And I'll say it again, I do see you as unifier and possibly the one to bring that kind of unification we're looking forward to for our future South Africans. So God bless you and thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled. God bless you too.
God bless you. Take care, Linda. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.